to rub my parents' generation's nose into the ground because he hates this country. He's got a sense of history from his CIA family that raised him in Indonesia. That's where he went to school, okay? He hates this country. He wants to rewrite history on Memorial Day and say we're the bad guys who did all of this. Now, at the same time, I want to tell you how the media has spun what Trump said yesterday. He went to let's see, where was this? This is North Dakota. I started to say South Dakota. He went to Bismarck, North Dakota. And there he said that he will undo Obama's climate change agenda. Now, it's reported by Reuters as this being an appeal to the oil sector. In other words, he's pandering to a bunch of oil company executives. He was speaking to 7,700 people. Okay, now, the conference center there was a Williston Basin Petroleum Conference in Bismarck. Was it 7,700 oil company executives, as they said? Are there that many oil company executives? Maybe there are. I don't know. But the bottom line is that we don't need this climate change treaty that was done. This is not something that is just simply targeted at one industry. This is targeting our entire economy. This will shut down our economy if we allow them to do this. What he needs to do is not just shut down that climate change treaty. Donald Trump needs to take away the police powers of the EPA. And he needs to take away their legislative powers. That's truly what needs to be done. He understands that we need to have regulation that is not, as he points out, outdated, unnecessary, bad for workers, contrary to the national interest. He needs to scrap it, and it needs to be scrapped completely. That's what he said he will do. We will still have regard for rational environmental concerns, but not the agenda to take down this country that Obama and the EPA. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Nye. We're going to talk about what's happening with the demonization of patriots, both by Washington Post and by Marvel Comics. We've also got some articles about Tennessee passing a Gold Reserve Act where they'll have a gold depository within the state. Texas did that last year. Now we've got another state, Tennessee. Very interesting to see this happening. Also, the TPP will subject Canadian citizens' banking data to the U.S. Patriot Act. And this is something that has come up once before. Rand Paul pointed this out. He was called quirky by Obama for being concerned about American citizens' financial data being exposed to foreign governments, being exposed to everybody, essentially. It's the Fourth Amendment. We have a right to privacy in our person, our place, our papers, that sort of thing. It's those principles that are there. Yeah, this is electronic in most cases. That doesn't mean that the principles don't apply. But the Canadians need to understand this, too, that they really want to get under the Patriot Act. The banks are telling them, yeah, you need to do that. So we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Before we do, we'll remind you that we now have Super Male Vitality back in stock at InfoWarsLife.com. Right now, get your bottles before it sells out. It's a good time to stock up. It's been gone for over a month. If you're having trouble getting some of this stuff, sign up for our auto ship. That can get you a 10% discount. Make sure that this stuff doesn't ever go out of stock. But if it's something that you want to try or you're not on auto ship, now is a good time to get Super Male Vitality. It's back in stock at InfoWarsLife.com. We've also extended the sale on our Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, 20% off. This is this weekend only. So it's about to end, the 20% off sale on Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine. This is something you really need to have for your family's emergency supply, as well as a key nutraceutical that you need to have available for your own health. It's 99.99% pure iodine salt crystals from deep within the earth, lab tested for purity. You can get it 20% off right now. Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine at InfoWarsLife.com. Let's take this story about the TPP first, because I also want to talk about what's going on within the Libertarian Party. And I keep hearing, as I see these debates with the Libertarian Party, there was one that I watched with John Stossel, and they asked them about free trade. Look, I understand that free trade in principle is a good idea, but can we talk about what these trade deals are in reality? Okay? These are not free trade. When we had NAFTA, Ron Paul correctly pointed out, you don't need a 1,000-page trade agreement to have free trade. You just have free trade. So it's not about that. It's about managed trade. It's about crony capitalism, and it's going to be managed by people that you don't have any say-so. People who aren't elected officials even. People who are offshore are going to control our economy if this goes through. But there's also massive privacy issues involved in these treaties. They're not even trade treaties. These are treaties that were signed secretly, negotiated by these multinational corporations because they are stakeholders. You aren't. You don't own anything in their eyes. And so they created this thing and then dumped it on our legislators and said, run this thing through. And the legislators obediently, I think it was 96, the final vote, 96-4 in the Senate, they said, yeah, we're going to shut this down. We're not going to follow the procedure that's in the Constitution for ratifying a treaty. That's what the Trade Promotion Authority, which is passed, that's what it's all about. It's about saying, there's this process in the Constitution. We have to have 2/3 of the people in the Senate ratify a treaty. We're going to say, forget about that. We're going to say there's just a simple majority in the Senate and a simple majority in the House. And we're not going to have a debate. And we're not going to have amendments. And we're not going to have filibusters. And we're not going to be able to keep this from coming to the floor. They did all of that with the TPA. And, of course, you had Ted Cruz vote for that before he voted against it finally. Rand Paul voted against it consistently. And now it is coming up, hopefully, and this is a key thing. You're going to find that even though Hillary Clinton says she now opposes it, she will vote for this if she becomes president. I think Bernie Sanders would vote against it simply because he doesn't like corporations. Donald Trump will vote against it because he thinks it's a bad deal, and it is. But it is far more than just an economic treaty. It also affects our freedoms on the internet. And then this new thing here from the New American. TPP would subject Canadian citizens' banking data to the USA Patriot Act, a provision in the Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Agreement to which Canada and the United States are parties, makes it quite likely, quote unquote, that the private banking details of Canadian citizens could be accessible to the American security intelligence agencies, according to a member of the Canadian Parliament. Now, one of these guys said there is a quid pro quo because a number of Canadian companies in the financial sectors, that's the banks, and the insurance sector have told us that the cross-border flow of data is very important. So there you go. If the bankers tell you it's important to them, it doesn't matter about our privacy. And it doesn't matter about the Bill of Rights or the Constitution either because the bankers want it. Just do whatever they say. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We're going to talk about what's going on in the Libertarian Party as well as with these attacks on patriots. Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host on this fourth hour. We see this back and forth going on between Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders. Perhaps they're going to do a debate. Very interesting idea. It shows how things are really being shaken up, but also the people who have been there as the core of the establishment parties and the Democrat and Republican parties are closing the ranks. And they are coming out and telling people they need to back off on some of this third-party insurrection here. Just as we saw the Republican Party come out against Donald Trump, we now have the party faithful coming out against Bernie Sanders within the Democrat Party. This is the Daily Cause. The guy that they took it's named after him. His name is Marcos Maloutzis, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Sorry if I'm butchering your name here, but he's the founder and editor-in-chief of the Daily Cause, a liberal blogging site, supports the Democrat Party. This is an article from Mint Press. He told the site's users in March that the site would soon be transitioning to, quote-unquote, general election footing. So here's this guy, what is he, 20-something or whatever, like a Zuckerberg. These guys want to be your little political dictators. They're going to control the press. These guys have the most contempt for free speech I've ever seen in my life. Of course, that's what they've been raised on in these schools. Shut down, as we've been talking about all day. Shut down anybody who opposes your viewpoint. Absolute total censorship. Absolute total intolerance. And often that's what they excuse it with, tolerance. In the name of tolerance, we're going to shut down your free speech. We're going to censor you. We're going to say that you need to be killed. So here he is. He says, we're going to go pretty soon on the Daily Cause. We're going to go to general election footing. Well, what does that mean? Well, the Mint Press says this. According to his blog post, that this meant that bloggers would be banned from making, quote, attacks on Hillary Clinton using right-wing tropes or sources. So no criticism of Hillary Clinton on the Daily Cause. Now, he goes on to say, you can talk about Bernie, just don't use any talking points from the right wing or any sources that we would consider to be right wing. Or we're going to ban you. We're going to throw you off. Don't use terms like oligarch or warmonger. That right-wing stuff. Only right-wingers can be warmongers. You can't call Hillary Clinton a warmonger. Users are also banned from advocating for third-party Green candidate Jill Stein or any other third-party candidates. See, total censorship by the Daily Cause, okay? Founded in 2002, doesn't take these little brats very long to try to trash free speech. Once they get a little bit of power, they have nothing but contempt for it. Now, what's going on with third parties? We've got, as we pointed out yesterday, we had an interview with John McAfee, and we pointed out then that the Libertarians are meeting in a convention in Orlando this weekend. They will pick their nominee at convention this weekend. Last night, they began with a debate. And during that debate, Gary Johnson, who appears to be the darling of the establishment press, because why? He's an established politician, and they just want an established politician so badly, especially the Never Trump people. So they want an establishment politician like Gary Johnson. And he was asked by Austin Peterson, who is also running, said, this is according to Reason Magazine, Peterson, who's been making hay with the contention that, quote, it's time for us to stop nominating failed Republicans. I don't know if Gary Johnson, I would even consider him to be a Republican. I think he's a Democrat. He won twice in a Democrat state. Second time he won with an even larger margin because he did exactly what a Democrat would have done in that case. He wisely positioned himself and labeled himself as a Republican so the Republicans wouldn't oppose him. But he governed as a Democrat, and so did the guy that he is holding up, William Weld, who was a two-term governor from Massachusetts. He also governed as a Democrat. But Peterson says it's time to stop nominating failed Republicans and start nominating successful libertarians. And he got sustained applause when he challenged Johnson over saying that he wants to have William Weld, the two-term liberal governor from Massachusetts, as his vice president to running mate. He said in 2012, William Weld didn't endorse Ron Paul. He didn't endorse you. He endorsed Mitt Romney. And in 2016, William Weld, before he decided that he wanted to be a libertarian, he endorsed John Kasich. He says, why didn't your VP pick you? And Johnson came back, they said, with a rambling answer, and you can see the video if you go to Reason. He started off by saying that Weld was beyond his wildest dreams to be able to have an establishment politician. See, that's what's important to him. It's not about individual liberty. It's about saying, we've got a ticket with two establishment Republicans. Look, the Libertarian Party, and I hate to see this, the Libertarian Party this weekend is in a fight for its very soul. Whether or not it's going to mean anything or whether or not they're going to sell out for the admiration of the K Street, Wall Street lobbyist juncture, okay? That's what they want. They don't care about Main Street. They want Wall Street and K Street lobbyists to admire them. And then he went on to say this, and this is what got him booed. Gary Johnson said William Weld was, quote, the original libertarian. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about William Weld here. It's truly amazing. As the interview yesterday, John McAfee pointed out, I haven't met a single libertarian that doesn't believe we have a right to own and keep arms. And Gary Johnson picks a man who doesn't want anyone under 21 having a gun, who doesn't believe that arms are necessary unless they're used for hunting. You can see this on the article and video that we've got of the interview. McAfee says Republicans are taking over the Libertarian Party. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're pandering. They want to be looked at as an established party. They have seen a massive increase in people who are interested in what they're about because they don't like Trump or they don't like Hillary or Bernie, and so people are checking them out. And so what they decide that they will do is try to present themselves as the GOP establishment. I think it's really sad. You know, they have put themselves out there for the longest time and said, when people say, what is the Libertarian Party about? And they've done this for longer than I was involved there. They used to tell people, well, we're fiscally conservative, but we're socially liberal. And I never really liked that. I think they ought to just say, we're for individual liberty, because that's what they should be for. See, when they say they're for fiscally conservative, they're telling people, you know, when it comes to money, we're like the GOP. And when it comes to social policy, we're like the Democrats. And boy, Gary Johnson truly is like the Democrats. When he ran last time, he was all about abortion, about gay marriage. And those are not issues. When I was in the Libertarian Party, of course, gay marriage was not on the radar at that point. but certainly abortion was. And there